The Power of Agile, hosted by Nagarro.
Welcome to today's episode. Agile is dead, long live Agile. Think, Agile just got a software update, out with the legacy roles, in with adaptability and customer obsession. Then we'll tackle the existential crisis. Is Agile truly dead or just desperately clinging to life? Finally, we'll see how new flexible work models are giving Agile an identity crisis. Now, let's dive in before Vladimir tries to sprint away again. So first off, Vlad, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Very glad to be here.
Happy to have you. And let's get stuck in then. Let's start with the catchy headline, Agile is dead, long live Agile. Why is this so dramatic?
The first time I heard this phrase, it was not my invention, sadly, because I still think it's just a great way to catch the attention. It was a former work colleague who said that, and I really had this kind of emotion that I thought, how dare you say that? Just with the half hours, Agile is that. I mean, I am also an Agile coach. That's why I love Agile, because I really believe in the idea and the values that are behind Agile. And then he added long live Agile, and everybody who knows a little bit about philosophy, that it's a phrase that also Nietzsche said, not with Agile, but with another thing that is very similar to that. And it just was a great start to have a basic conversation about values. Why is it dead? Why is it alive? And what's behind it?
Okay, so you've had conversations with other people, right? I'm curious to understand, when you drop that Agile is dead line on people, what's the usual reaction you get? Do they clutch to their Scrum guides, or do they go ahead and update their LinkedIn profiles?
Great, because fun thing is there is always a visible reaction to it, and I will now generalize. Of course, not everybody reacts the same, but in general it is everybody who says that they have an Agile role, or they think they're connected to Agile and they're responsible to get people, companies, products, teams Agile. They're of course instantly in a defensive pose. They're how can you say it? Exactly the same that I was, or that have the same reaction that I had when I heard it the first time. Mm-hmm. And everybody who is not in an Agile role, typically project managers in general, or even sometimes just basic team members who are really doing the real part of the work in software development or product development. There you have also sometimes the reaction, no, that's not true, let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. But what kind of hurts, but is also understandable, some say finally somebody who says it, because they're annoyed with agility and everything surrounding Agile. So you always have a very visible reaction to this kind of statement.
Of course, for somebody who's working in that space as well, I guess the immediate reaction is, hey, what I do is worthwhile. My job still matters, and it's that kind of cultural fear that it brings out. So tell me, what was the actual original idea behind Agile?
Yeah. What's so great about Agile? Agile is very basic in its core idea. It's just with my words, make the customer happy as fast and as good as possible. Mm-hmm. Of course, when go into the theory behind it, and the Agile Manifesto, the start was just getting rid of rigid, heavyweight processes or frameworks, how to develop software. For today, you also use it to develop other products, not only software, but at the start it was get away from these slow processes. Mm-hmm. Go to, Scrum also advertises behind it, light, adaptable ways of working, but always with the focus on the customer value and really how can we benefit or how can we generate benefits for the customers. That's now the basic idea of Agile in today's world, which in my eyes is still viable, still necessary, and still important. But of course it changed over the years, because Agile is not an idea that is just a few years young. It's already a few decades old, this kind of idea and frameworks that we have.
Interesting. But the key points that you mentioned there was adaptability and, that customer focus. So just to reiterate now, the sense that I'm getting is Agile is that one friend who's all about going with the flow, as opposed to sticking to that itinerary that you didn't know about. But would you say in this day and age, it's lost its mojo for adaptability and customer obsession?
Yeah. Now I'm going to be a little bit, because it's a very important topic for me, and I have this kind of conversations a lot of times with other people who are like Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, or big fighters for agility. In my eyes, what's the biggest issue with being Agile, or just to get the Agile values out there, is that people get stuck behind methodologies. That they say, no, you have to use Scrum like in the Scrum Guide, that you have to use SAFe like in the framework, that you have whatever framework and method that you use. That's what I like to summarize, and a lot of other people that I learn from. They say, yeah, you do or you act Agile, but that's something different than being really Agile. Like you just said, has it lost its idea or identity? No, absolutely not. The core idea was always the same. Be adaptable to generate the highest possible customer value. How you do that? A lot of communication, a lot of feedback with the customers, where you say, like with the typical project management, you don't do that. Of course, you can have in my opinion at least, a typical waterfall project, and you can still be very agile. You just have to add a lot of communication and feedback, testing with the customer. And for me, at least, that you say, okay, we are getting the feedback and we are willing to adapt to it. That's already agile. Okay. Why? Because you care about the highest benefit, or what the customers wants behind it. Of course, in today's world, for me, the agile idea adapted and evolved. Yeah. And also, for me, logically, because if you say you're agile, you are willing to adapt, you're willing to change, you're willing to evolve, and you have to also adapt. That's for me very interesting. If you know that people say, like you just said, just go with the flow. For me, go with the flow is very anti-agile. Why? Agile is for me very disciplined. You have to have a lot of thoughts behind it. You have to have a plan behind it. When I go into other teams, other companies, oftentimes they're like, throwing around jokingly the phrase like, hey, we have a new request that I just got 5 minutes, or do it, or let's do that. And the developer says, no, we have other tasks. We have our running sprint. We can order it. Come on, be more agile. And for me, it's like, yeah, I understand this phrase. I understand why people are saying like this, but it's like, if you get to take a deeper look behind it, that's anti-agile. Just doing on a whim everything, that's not agile.
Yeah.
It's good if you want to change, but always with a plan behind it. It's a very fun phrasing that you chose, so it's putting a smile onto my face.
I'm glad. So it sounds as though Agile then hasn't drifted from its core mission. The sense that I'm getting is that everyone has a different way of working, and some tend to stick more towards the methodologies and framework side of things, whereas, like you quite rightly mentioned, with agility, it needs to be structured but flexible. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And next question then, why do you think so many organizations still can't get Agile to work? Obviously, you've touched on one of those, right? So with the methodologies and the frameworks, but are there any other dynamics that play into this?
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk for weeks and weeks just for this kind of question. Why?
We don't have
long. Why? Because situations are different. And of course, everything changes in regards of the human aspect, because every customer is different. Why? Customers are also just human. Developers are human. Managers are human. And of course, just because somebody is a PO, Scrum Master, coach, product manager, whatever role title you have, it will be genuinely always be different, because there are different persons behind it. That's why I don't like the idea of there's one methodology that fits it all. How I do it, like, of course, you can use the theory behind it and the methodologies. And if you're very strict with following the rules, you will be agile. If you really think about the ideas behind it. Why? A Scrum Guide. Let's take Scrum, because it's the most famous methodology that's connected to being agile. It starts with the Scrum values. And the Scrum values say, be open, be committed, try to be adaptable. So if you just follow this, you will be agile. Absolutely true. But people tend to follow strict rules. Why? Because it's easier. So when I talk with people about Scrum, they always mentions, of course, the Scrum artifacts and the ceremonies. Like, how is this planning to be done? How is the review? How is the retrospect? How are the dailies? Which is quite interesting. But for me, it's like you're not at the core again. It's like always, like I said just a few minutes ago, then you start doing Agile. But maybe you're not being Agile. Why? When you're, let's say, in a planning, the planning says in general, hey, you just talk about it, what's your goal for the current sprint. And if able or possible, assign user stories or work packages to people. So you can be a very motivated PO, create the work packages for everybody, just throw it into the face of the people and say that your work package for the next sprint, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, do it. Is that Agile? Not really for me, because you have a structure, but a basic waterfall project has the same thing. You also have their work packages. But talking behind it, is it really that the developers have the chance to say, hey, is this what the customer wants? Is it really the best way to approach it? These are now the basic Agile values and ideas that I'd like to hear and see when I go somewhere there. So I know that I'm repeating myself, but being able to communicate and really be able to adapt to any current situation, that's the core idea of Agile behind it.
Yeah, so communication is at the heart of it. It's about having that cohesive culture within an organization.
Maybe thank you for that, because I reminded myself what's also, like I said, it's important to understand why are we doing it or not that we are doing it. It's like the same with, let's take SAFe, a large scale framework that companies like to use. Why I'm a huge fan of SAFe. Why? Because if you look into it, you have everything that you might ever need. On the other side, which is also its biggest weakness, a lot of companies look into SAFe, say, hey, that's everything that we currently have. We just have to change the names. Then we're Agile. That's like, again, you sound Agile. You do maybe Agile, but you are not Agile. Because for me, it's like fun. Hey, we're going to change the names, but not the behavior behind it. Is that Agile? Yeah. You decide for yourself. My decision is definitely not. Because if you don't change anything in the background, just the names, it's just for show then.
Interesting, yeah, and that's a really good point you make. So on that note then, can you share a story where you've seen Agile work really well, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, I had a lot of opportunities to learn and to see that people can be Agile, even though it's not my idea of Agile, but it's like I said, Agile or being efficient and good for the customer has so many forms. One of the things where I was really amazed how Agile can be, or how people execute the Agile idea behind it is, I was at the customer and they were like, yeah, we don't know how to do it, and we are just working, and we are very happy with our daily work. We like our colleagues. And then I asked them, hey, okay, but are you able to talk with them? Yeah, of course, we are playing every night, bowling with each other, with the team. We have a great connection. And I said, yeah, that's great. I have the feeling, but that's for me not the core of Agile. Do you know your customer? Is the customer happy with the work that you do? And they looked at me and they said, no, are you crazy? I don't know. What if we say something that might offend the customer? And I said, yeah, but did you ever try? So no, but long story short, they invited the customer to their sprint reviews. And the first time that they saw the developers and said, oh, first thing, it's very nice to see faces besides the name, because I hear a lot of times your name, and it's nice to see the people that you, and you saw that the developers are kind of nervous. And after they presented what they did in the sprint with their prototype, the customer said, hey, it's great. Would it be possible, and just added very basic questions. Can I have a different color? Can this field be somewhere else on the screen? Can I get this faster and something like that? And the developer said, yeah, sure, but why didn't you ever tell us? And they said, yeah, because you never asked. And they said, yeah, but I thought we were Agile. And I was just sitting there. I just pushed the idea, invite the customer to this review. And now they get with the customer to all their parties, or to go to the bowling with the customers, and they say, we started to skip the dailies. I said, why are you skipping the dailies? Because it's not Scrum. The Scrum says you have to have dailies. I said, but we're so well informed. We were talking so much with the customers and with each other. We don't need the daily anymore. As for me, like in the base idea, it might not be what the Scrum Guide says, so you don't do Agile, but they are being Agile. So one of the things where I was amazed just how, with a little change, how way more agile you can start to be.
Yeah, and how interesting that it all comes back down to that communication piece. So now that you've mentioned how successful that case was, I'm curious to actually understand a case where you actually wanted to throw your laptop out of the window.
Yeah, let's say out of the window and not at another person. There was a team, or a lot of teams, and I'm always quite thrilled when teams or companies say we are already quite agile and still we want to have a sparring with an external coach just to see if we could change or improve. There was a team that said, hey, Vladimir, we don't need you because we are the most agile team in the company, and we are very sure that you can't help us improve. And it's like, hey, great, still I'm here. Let me observe. If you're so agile, then you won't be afraid. Then it's a great opportunity that I could learn something like this, because I'm also always trying to learn and to see how other people are doing agile. And they said, yeah, we have our estimation meetings, and our project currently is, let's say, it was August, and until the end of the year, the project was had the deadline with end of the year. I said, yeah, that's great. And the customer came and said, yeah, we want to have a change in the software because we tested it out. And what they wished for was, we want to have one input field, not on the right side of the screen in the app. We want to have it on the left side. Nothing else, just another position on the UI. So yeah, great. And they talked, and the lead developer started to say, yeah, gladly, we will do that in 6 weeks. We need 3 sprints for that. And I was like, look, I'm not the most technical guy. The last time that I coded was when I was 18. And I'm happy that I don't have to do it again. But a UI change for 3 sprints or 6 weeks, please explain that to me. And they said, Vladimir, we are not going to explain it to you. We also had to teach it to our customer. They are not allowed to ask why we are doing it. We are very open and transparent in the things that we decide, but they're not allowed to give feedback on the decisions we make. And I was like, okay, you have the core idea behind transparency, but adaptability, it's not. Please explain it to me. They said, now we are not going to explain it to somebody who can't understand it. I'm like, look, you can talk to me like this, but that's not the polite way of doing it. You have to just paraphrase it, maybe say it differently. On the other side, I felt challenged because they were right. I'm not the most technical guy, but then I asked another colleague from the same company that I knew he's very experienced, very nice, very polite. Hey, when I would suggest this kind of change for you for this product, how long would you need? I said, honestly, just that I can chill 2 hours.
Wow. I
said, you alone would just need 2 hours to chill. I said, honestly, I'd need 10 minutes probably, but I will say 2 hours because if somebody changes, if you change UI, I think, so yeah, great. I got back to the team. I said, look, I got my opinion from another developer. He said 2 hours. Now explain to me, how do we get from 2 hours to 6 weeks? That's a huge discrepancy. I said, no, we're not going to. Long story short, they were very not happy with me because, of course, I challenged them on that. And at the end, they said, I am a disruptor of agility, and it's not good that I was there. A few years later, I heard that the project really, let's say, lost its magic. Let's say it like this. But for me, that was an example. If people think they're agile, but ignoring the base idea and the base core values behind it, then I want to take my notebook and throw it out of the window. Yeah,
definitely sounds like that's not a way that it should be done. Okay, moving on. So let me just switch focus now, right? Because we've looked at agility, we've looked at how things work when they're done right, what happens when things are going wrong. I'm looking at it from the people perspective now, right? So is someone truly agile just because they have a title? And what would you say makes an agile practitioner relevant in this day and age?
Yeah, thank you. First question, of course not. Just because you have a title, you are not the title, or you have the core competencies behind it. That's also one of the issues, I think, why Agile currently, and why I'm behind the idea that Agile is dead in its current form, because of a lot of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches are just not doing their job how it should be done.
Okay.
In these roles, you have to be able to communicate. That's one of the biggest things. You have to communicate. And in this role, it's, for me, one of your core responsibilities to communicate with people. It's not a place for a person who is shy.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you can be an introvert. You can be like more polite, and you don't have to be in love with conflicts. But you should be the person who is brave enough to talk about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case in today's world. A lot of Scrum Masters and coaches that I had the opportunity to observe, they're just fancy secretaries. And I'm very sorry to say it like this, but that's not the idea behind any kind of Agile role. In your Agile role, you try to improve things.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how, of course it matters how. You have to be polite. You have to do it in a way that is sustainable. And for me, true sustainability is only achieved if the people want to learn from you.
Mm-hmm.
And after a time, which is also quite a controversial stance, that you try as a Scrum Master and Agile coach to make yourself unnecessary.
Okay.
Why? If your team, and I just had or let's say it like this, I was just being able to do it one time properly,
Mm-hmm.
that the team said after a year, Vladimir, you know what, we know already what you're going to say because we tried to learn from you. And they said, yeah, and they had the conversation, and honestly, it was the same. It would have made no difference if I was in the room or not.
Okay.
And I knew, great.
Mm-hmm.
So on the one side, of course, we people, or we humans want to keep our job. But our job in this role is to make yourself unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because people learn so much from you that they say, we understood, we have to be critical, we have to get feedback, we have to change if necessary. Not just change for the sake of change if it's necessary. And especially in today's world, with now AI as one of the biggest new innovations that we have, I'm very curious and I played around with it. And one of the things that made me nervous, I had a huge new concept for a new team that I needed to work out. And I worked myself, let's say a day. I put in a very sophisticated prompt into AI.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it did a better job in just describing it with fancy words in a polite way, better than me. So our job has to be really focusing on the humans now.
Mm-hmm.
How can we help humans to adapt?
Yeah. Such a hot topic that you've mentioned as well, using AI smartly and actually using humans where it's absolutely necessary to actually do the smart stuff, right? And obviously you've mentioned that now, so it lines up perfectly with my next question. Would you say we need fewer roles or just better job descriptions?
Yeah, both. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm a big fan of simple ideas and being able to describe things as simple as possible. So fewer job descriptions, why not? Honestly, I don't care how many job descriptions there are, as long as the people, the environment, the teams know, okay, who is responsible for what and who can help me out with what.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, we have to be very careful not to create silos where we say, hey, that's the border where I'm willing to work and that's enough. So it's necessary just to understand who is doing what and how can I invest myself to generate more ideas behind it. In regards to the job descriptions, yeah, it's also very easily done. I'm quite amazed how many discussions and meetings I was a part of where they just talked about, hey, what are we allowed to put into our descriptions?
Mm-hmm.
And when I challenge them and say, hey, is anybody going to punish us if I do stuff that is not in my descriptions? People look very confused, and sometimes the answer is yes, you're not allowed to do anything that is not in your descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other extreme, it's like, well, why are you saying like this? Nobody is going to be mad at you if you do more than is anticipated of you. So the question is quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just to summarize it, I don't care about the roles and the numbers.
Yeah.
If it gets more or less, for me, not important. Descriptions, the same. It's just very important. Do the people know who is doing what? Mm-hmm. And to really being able to understand what is written down or what this job descriptions include behind it.
Absolutely. And we've seen massive layoffs in Agile roles, right? Mm-hmm. I believe it's Capital One. They kind of made headlines on that. What's your take with that?
Yeah, honestly, I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something that, I mean, I'm a quite provocative person, so that's okay when I say it. but I don't want to offend anyone. But I do understand why, like I said, a lot of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches are not being able to convey their value that they can contribute to companies or to product development, exactly because of this reason. They tend to lose maybe their inspiration or innovation during the time, but also just from the get-go, a lot of times these roles are being filled with people who think they like to communicate with people, but they are lacking the necessary experience in regards to whatever. If you're in a large company, the experience just how sometimes larger companies tend to be slower, or that some decisions need a little bit longer of time. It's also for me very confusing just to understand, oh, I'm a Scrum Master, how old are you? I'm 19, but I did the 2-day certification, so now I'm a Scrum Master. For me, it's like, yeah, it's challenging to understand, and I'm not surprised that you don't know how you can really contribute, because Scrum Master, Scrum Guide, and even the certification to tell you the core, what's the idea, but then getting into the real life is hard to understand. And after a few days or months and weeks, companies just ask, why are you here? Because you're organizing the meetings. You ask me every time, are the acceptance criteria in my user story? But honestly, after a few weeks, it gets boring. And then the people say, which is another huge topic, but I'm just going to mention it. People say, hey, I'd rather have a developer just to get faster or better, or just to help the other people to get the load, to reduce their load. I'd rather pay them money for a developer. And if the people don't see the value behind you as a Scrum Master and Agile coach, I think it's totally okay to say something like this. So, yeah, I understand the layoffs. What you just mentioned was, I think, an article that I read in 2023 in North America, where they said they offered the Scrum Masters there, hey, you can stay a Scrum Master, but you have to get another job as a developer, tester, whatever, but we are not going to let you have your job just as the Scrum Master. And it's already nice that they offer you, hey, you have to be additionally something. That's hard because, like I said, we don't have the time to get into details now, but I do understand the Agile roles in today's time are not able to convey their value to companies or to the value stream at all.
I see. So it does sound like a long-awaited reckoning almost.
The thing is, I'm also part of this new wave because I started being an Agile coach like 5 years ago, and the Agile idea behind this is way older. It's decades old. So I'm also I feel at least very, very new and fresh to this topic. But when I get into companies, it's very important for me just to understand how can I show my value. A lot of Scrum Masters don't do that. I have my experiences before that also as a project lead, as I was also team lead. I had so many other things that I had to do, like real work. I'm sorry to say that, but Agile coaches, Scrum Masters also do real work. But if you don't have like the understanding, what do we generate? Who is our customer? And what does the customer expect? So you have to be able to define your value. Then it's hard to, if you can't describe it yourself, how will you present it to the customer? So shifting it from the human aspect, right? So if Agile roles are kind of set to disappear, right? How do you think organizations should like future-proof themselves without having to rewrite job titles every time? They could, but it's not necessary. What's just important to understand, just some real basic questions that I like to ask, like who is your customer? Does everybody know who the customer is? What's your product? What's the goal of your product? Such real basic questions that you can ask yourself already, like the last few years. What just changed in today's world is just that the innovation and information is exchanged way faster than a few years ago. Like I said, also the last innovation, at least in my eyes, that changed a lot of things technology-wise, was the adaptation to cloud. Now it's AI. And there are still companies that are able to do it after they change or implement all of these new technologies a little bit later. But the core behind it, that you need to adapt, that's connected to Agile. like you have to be agile, to be willing to change, to be able to change, and to be able to change in a way that benefits the people, customers, and also additionally your own employees. Because the market is wild in today's world. If you don't change, your customers will just go to another competitor that is newer, that is more hip, that seems to be able to adapt. So you'll be left behind.
Exactly. So then, how can companies actually measure agility in a meaningful way?
What I like to say, you can have a lot of measurement. For me, the most important measurement is your customer happy? Right. Of course, it depends on who you're asking. If you're now asking a person who is very behind finances, they will just say, look at the revenue, look at the costs. Understandable, it's fine, and it's for me the fuel that every company needs, but it's not like the most important part. Look at customer satisfaction. And how can you get customer satisfaction? You just try to force yourself into getting feedback, going into conversation, going into any kind of interactions that you just have the feeling I'm trying to understand where we currently are. You can also, what I personally like, but it's not necessary. Do we get the product out faster? If we have a new idea, how fast can we implement it? How high is our technical debt? Or how many bugs do we have after a release? How fast is our release? How often do we release? There are so many metrics that you could use. I basically, and I'm very surprised that it's not as often there as I'd like to be, customer satisfaction. And additionally, employee satisfaction. Why? Because it's also one of the hardest challenges in today's world. Just have good employees who want to work there and who have a high level of quality in their daily work. So again, how happy are the humans behind it? Customers and employees.
Absolutely. You've put it perfectly. And that's a wrap on Agile's latest identity crisis. Vladimir, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you. So, whether it's dead or just desperately clinging to life, one thing's clear here, and that is that adaptability isn't going anywhere, unlike some roles we know. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious, stay agile, and we'll catch you next time.